Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So I just saw Men in Black International. Let's talk about it. So Men in Black International is directed by F. Gary Gray, and going into this film, I was looking forward to seeing it, not really because I'm a huge fan of the Men in Black franchise. I thought the original was fine. I watched it last year and it was fun, it was interesting, it was a bit grittier and grimier than the films that we're used to seeing these days, which I appreciated. It was definitely a fun film, and I understand why it has this cult following, or this even mass following that it has to this day. I haven't seen the follow-ups of that original film, so I can't really judge how the franchise has gone since then, but I have an overall understanding that it's kind of been hit or miss. So people were looking forward to this one because of the Men in Black franchise. I was looking forward to this one because, of course, you have the reunion of Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson since Thor Ragnarok, where they completely stole the show. Their chemistry was electric on camera and they worked so well together, and I was really looking forward to seeing how Sony would take advantage of that chemistry and put it to use in this franchise. And I have to say that overall, it was slightly disappointing. I didn't really see the same level of chemistry and the electricity that we saw in Thor Ragnarok with the two leads, and I thought the story overall was a bit generic, but we're going to get into all of that in this review. First off, I just want to let you guys know that this is a non-spoiler review for once. I'm actually just going to be talking about the outline of the film and what I thought of it. I don't really want to be delving into any specific parts of the film, so there won't be any spoilers here. But first off, let's start with the positive before we knock it all down with the negative. So I have to say that I was a huge fan of Tessa Thompson's performance here. I think she was really good. I like the fact that she was established as a clever character, very intelligent, and she's well trained. She's been through all of the processes to get into various agencies, but she specifically wanted to be in the Men in Black for reasons that are explored in the film. And it's just refreshing to see someone who doesn't just accidentally stumble in. She's very well educated, very well trained, but she has a specific goal in mind, and that goal is to see the universe, is to have a deeper understanding of how everything works. She's a bit of a master of all, which sometimes can seem a bit gimmicky. But overall, you just get the impression that she's intelligent, that she's driven, and she's focused on the task at hand, which I appreciate, and I thought it was very refreshing. And I especially like the fact that even though she's a very knowledgeable character, she still has that sense of awe and wonder when she enters the world of Men in Black. And seeing these humans and these aliens cohabitating and working alongside each other really fascinates her. And I like the fact that the film kind of takes its time to really let it sink in that this person has been dreaming of this opportunity for pretty much her entire adult life, and here she is living it out, and it's a huge deal to her, and Tessa Thompson really sells that to us, and that just helps make her such an endearing and relatable character. Secondly, I like the use of technology in this film. I always find it to be so much fun when films, sci-fi films, spy films, they go into the tech, they go into the different weaponry, the different ways that everyday objects can be used to store weaponry. I just find that really enjoyable, and this film definitely has that. I love the way that they make use of the cars and just everyday objects as weapons, and even aliens as weapons. I just find that really interesting and fun, and overall it just gives it a fun vibe. It's very tongue-in-cheek. There's nothing very serious and very grounded in this film. There are attempts at that at moments, but I don't really take it seriously. I just think if you take it at face value as this fun adventure film, you get a lot out of it. And I think the weapons and the creative ways of using these weapons and where they're stored and the aliens and everything, that's just kind of a wacky way to package everything together and make it something distinct. And I appreciated that about this film. Speaking of aliens, there aren't really many aliens who stand out in this film. They're not given a very distinct personalities to make them characters in their own right. Except for one, and that is Steve, the little guy Steve, who I really appreciated. I loved him. I think he was so funny in this film, and actually he got more laughs than a lot of the human characters in here. I just found him to be so lovable and endearing. He's very funny. He's got very funny lines, and also the way that he interacts with Agent M and Agent H. I think it's just very well done, very well carried out, and so he really stands out as a character. Like I said, the other aliens kind of are in the background. They're mostly just cameos, and so I have to say that's a downfall of the film, where it's supposed to be a film about how aliens and humans could work together, but a lot of the time, similarly to Detective Pikachu, the aliens just play as sidekick roles. They don't really have a prominent role in the film, especially in the Men in Black side. In terms of the other side, like the villain side and everything else, they have more of a prominent role, but with the Men in Black, they're very much just on the sidelines. And lastly, for this section, I wanted to give a special shout out to Larry and Laurent Bourgeois, who play a character in this film that I can't really elaborate on because this is a non-spoiler review. But I have to say that they do an excellent job with their physical performance. Their physical acting is amazing in this film, and the way that they move their bodies, it really helps bring the character that they are portraying to life. So I really appreciated that element of the film. All right, so now that I have praised this film as much as I possibly can, let's get down to the nitty-gritty and let's get into some of the negatives. So like I said before, one of the main draws for me with this film was seeing Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson working alongside each other again in a comedic role, and I have to say that it wasn't quite done as effectively here as it was in Thor Ragnarok, and I don't think it was because of them. I still think that they work very, very well together, and there are times when the film kind of slows down and their characters get a chance to fully develop and have a bit more dimension to them, and it's at that point that the acting skills really shine with these two actors. But I have to say that the overall writing is what lets them down. The writing in this film is nowhere near the immense quality that we see in Thor Ragnarok. Now, the storyline of Thor Ragnarok is pretty standard, but it's the jokes and it's the way that the characters interact that really make it stand apart from any other Marvel movie or any other action adventure film, certainly. And I think that's what's missing here, is that zaniness that Taika Waititi brought to the table in Thor Ragnarok that is not present here. You have a very standard script, and a lot of the jokes fell flat because they weren't zany enough. They didn't have enough, like, I don't know, it's just, they were very flat, they were very bland, basically, because I felt like overall the film was trying to appeal to both children and adults who may have remembered the original film. A lot of the jokes were very childish, and the film definitely steers away from adult humor, even though there are some adult themes explored here, but very vaguely, I guess. So it's kind of trying to have its cake and eat it too in that respect, and I think it's a missed opportunity, especially having Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson to be in this kidified version of Men in Black, because like I said, even the original was a bit grittier and grimier than this film would make it out to be. Speaking of Chris Hemsworth, over the years we've seen that he's an excellent comedic actor, from, you know, Ghostbusters and his SNL performances, as well as Thor Ragnarok and Avengers Endgame, of course. And so now that we have, as a society, accepted that Chris Hemsworth is just as funny as he is attractive, we can now give him more comedic roles, right? Well, here his role is very funny, but like I said, that script kind of just lets him down. And as a result, some of the jokes that he says, they don't really land. And I feel like his character is very distinct. It's, to give a small spoiler, he's a very kind of drunk, kind of, oh, I did one great thing once before and now I can kind of coast on it for the rest of my life type of character. And again, if the film incorporated more adult humor as part of his character, you could fully go there and you could really increase the punchiness of that. And he would be able to deliver on that 100%, like when he, spoiler again, ends up sleeping with that weird alien woman and she has tentacles, and it's like, oh, but are you gonna go there? But they don't because they want it to be a kids film as well as being an adult-y type film, and as a result they don't really deliver on either of them, which is a missed opportunity. And I think Chris Hemsworth really could have delivered on a more adult Men in Black type character. But aside from that, I did take issue with some of the other character choices as well, like the fact that he's British. Now for Thor, Chris's South English accent works because he's not really English, he's Asgardian, he's from another planet, so you can kind of make excuses as to why his accent is a tad inconsistent, a tad Shakespearean, but also just it's otherworldly, and that's kind of the explanation for his accent, right? And it works. Here it doesn't, because he's supposed to be English and it's very weird, especially like as a Brit I can tell that it's very, very weird. But even still, like, I could have made excuses for him had it not been for the fact that a lot of the films actually set in London with a lot of British actors, so they have their authentic accents, and then you have Chris Hemsworth's accent and it stands apart and it stands out a lot, and it was a very weird decision to have. I think he should have just been Australian. I think it wouldn't have made a huge difference to the actual story or his character arc at all. Like, him being English has nothing to do with anything. So I think he should have just been Australian. It would have been funnier. Right? All Australians are hilarious, just like all British people are villains. It's fine. It would have been great. Speaking of the UK, like I said, a large proportion of this film is set in London, but the film itself boasts its international presence. And I have to say that overall, it was very disappointing to see where the film is actually set. A lot of the scenes are actually set in very obscure places where you couldn't really tell what city or country you were in anyway. For example, they choose to set a very prominent action sequence at the beginning in Moorgate, which I happen to recognize because I'm a Londoner. But why would you choose Moorgate? Like, it's in the middle of the street at night with not a single person in sight. Inexplicably, it was completely empty. And I was just like, why would you choose Moorgate? That's so random. Go to Tower Bridge or Shoreditch or somewhere interesting. Like, that was very bizarre to me. Like, what was the point of even being in London? You may as well have just been in New York. And also, they have a sequence in the Eiffel Tower, but of course it happens inside the Eiffel Tower in this room. So it's barely significant that they're in the Eiffel Tower to begin with. It's very bizarre to me that they chose these interesting countries to set these scenes, only for them to be happening in weird, obscure places. There's another one where they're in Italy, I believe, and it's just in the middle of nowhere. It's in this random island. You could barely tell that it was Italy. It could be any island on the planet and it wouldn't really matter. I think the one place that they did do justice was Morocco, where they show the busy, bustling markets and you get a sense of authenticity from that place that you don't from the other places, as well as when they end up in the desert, although that was already done in John Wick Chapter 3 and much better, so I can't really give it much credit there. Overall, Men in Black International does happen all around the world, but just in the weirdest locations and not really maximizing the use of these cities to give you wonderful and fantastical backdrops to whatever's happening in the forefront. Last note, the supporting characters were also in this film. You have Emma Thompson, who is great, and she's always great, so I absolutely have no problem with her character. I love her. But then you have Liam Neeson, who's also in this film. Rebecca Ferguson, it actually annoyed me what they did with this character because they wasted her. Of course they wasted her. That seems to be a running trend in Hollywood. But not only did they do that, they gave her the worst costume, the worst makeup, the worst look. I was just baffled at how she's a beautiful woman and they made her look atrocious. Like, how did you even accomplish? Well done for accomplishing that, because that is truly a feat. I definitely think it did her a disservice, and it did her character a disservice as well, because, okay, minor spoiler, but she's supposed to be Chris Hemsworth's previous love interest, and they were supposed to have had this passionate romance between them, and yet you feel none of that when you see her. Firstly, because of that atrocious costume, you can't take her seriously, but secondly, there is no chemistry there, and it could be, of course, because the relationship broke down, but you don't get the sense that there was ever any passion there, so that kind of let it down as well. But yeah, overall, not a huge fan of what they did to her, and no. Overall, what are my thoughts on this film? Well, I have to say that despite the fact that I've been ranting about its issues, it's better than the sum of its parts somehow. It's still a fun ride, and I think I had a good time watching it. Do I think it's a very memorable film that's going to stick with me for many, many months to come? Absolutely not. And in fact, unfortunately, I think it does follow through with the running trend that we've seen this summer of films whose impact and memorability disappear as quickly as they came. As a result, I am going to put this film on par with Pokemon Detective Pikachu and give Men in Black International a 5.5 out of 10. So now that I've told you guys what my thoughts were on Men in Black International, it's time for you guys to let me know what you thought down in the comments below. Please be sure to subscribe to catch any new videos coming up. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!